contained, deliberate, not the desperate romantic. Because the strategist doesn't seek approval. He radiates presence. He doesn't need to prove himself. He allows himself to be experienced, and what is experienced but not claimed becomes magnetic. The common man wants to please. The grounded man provokes awareness. He doesn't give constant reassurance, he gives rhythm. He leads the emotional tempo, shifting between approach and pause, attention and distance. He lets imagination do half the work. He understands that the most seductive phrase is the silence that follows a glance. Because silence, when charged with presence, speaks louder than words, and the body always responds to what the voice tries to conceal. Desire, therefore, is not something you manufacture. It's something you allow. You don't force her to feel. You stop interrupting what she could feel. When you stop seeking validation, you project authority. When you stop needing outcomes, you project abundance. And abundance is the most attractive state a man can embody, because it communicates without words. I don't need to conquer. I attract. A woman doesn't respond to the one who chases. She responds to the one whose gravity draws her in. This is the inversion of power. The one who needs to prove his worth becomes reactive to the one who simply exists in it. Desire isn't a game of words. It's a game of hierarchy. In every interaction, someone governs emotional rhythm and the other adapts. Most men unknowingly allow the woman to take the lead by reacting to her instead of regulating the frame. They let her mood dictate the tone, her attention dictate their value, her silence dictate their anxiety. And whoever reacts first loses hierarchy. A woman doesn't respond to the man who seeks her approval. She responds to the one who doesn't depend on it, because genuine detachment communicates abundance. It says, I choose, I don't chase. And every feminine instinct recognizes that energy as dominance. It's not arrogance, it's sovereignty. The man who acts from abundance doesn't compete. He decides, and the man who decides always controls the frame of desire. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. In the language of attraction, fear translates to respect. It's not about intimidation. It's about the sense of mystery and consequence that surrounds a man who doesn't bend easily. Women respect men who are not emotionally available on demand. They test limits to see if there is resistance, and when they find it, paradoxically, they relax. Because structure calms emotion and control creates safety, not through words, but through energy. The inversion of power occurs when the man stops trying to be liked and starts choosing what deserves his energy. He no longer seeks acceptance. He filters. He doesn't wait for validation. He observes reactions and calibrates presence. He doesn't respond immediately. He allows silence to set the rhythm. And that silence, intentional, firm, sovereign, does what no speech can. It places him above the noise. Jung described the archetype of the self as the integration of shadow and light, the total command of one's duality. In attraction, this appears as a man who knows his darker impulses but doesn't advertise them. He doesn't suppress them either. He governs them. He understands that to awaken the deeper feminine nature, he must first have mastered his own. Because a woman can only surrender to what she subconsciously respects, and she only respects what she cannot fully domesticate. The average man, seeking to be loved, gives everything: time, attention, affirmation. But giving without selection destroys value. The man of presence gives little, but every gesture carries weight. A glance, a pause, a word, each intentional. Every act becomes symbolic because it is rare, and what is rare becomes sacred. That's why the inversion of power is not about manipulation, it's about restoring hierarchy. The man doesn't withdraw to punish, he withdraws to preserve his gravity. He doesn't speak less to appear mysterious. He speaks less because his silence already communicates enough. His attention isn't distributed, it's earned. And every woman, consciously or not, recognizes the same law that governs all attraction. The one who holds back controls the rhythm. The one who controls the rhythm governs the outcome. A woman doesn't surrender to words. She surrenders to the energy that exists behind them. Attraction is not communication, it's calibration. The more you talk, the weaker the signal becomes. The more you explain, the more the mystery dissolves. Because desire isn't about logic, it's about the emotional rhythm your presence imposes. A woman doesn't respond to what she fully understands, she responds to what she feels but cannot define. And what cannot be defined expands. The modern man, obsessed with reassurance, destroys the very thing he seeks. He wants to be liked before being desired, accepted before being felt, understood before being respected. But the order of attraction is the reverse. First tension, then respect, then connection. The one who seeks emotional comfort too early ends up trapped in the safety of being nice. And nice never awakens instinct because attraction doesn't emerge from equality, it emerges from contrast. Machiavelli would say all relationships are struggles for influence. In attraction, influence is invisible. It's not about dominance or submission, it's about rhythm. When you control rhythm, you control perception. And when you control perception, you guide emotion. The man who governs emotion governs everything, even when he appears to be doing nothing. That is why true seduction isn't movement, it's gravity. Everything moves around the man who doesn't need to move. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming whole, integrating strength and vulnerability, reason and instinct, light and shadow. The compelling man is the one who no longer suppresses his instincts but channels them with presence. He doesn't fight his desire, he directs it. He doesn't escape tension. He uses it as a bridge. He doesn't suppress his vital energy, he refines it into calm power. Because desire without control is chaos, and control without desire is emptiness. The art is balance. The feminine side isn't awakened by stimulation. It's awakened by permission. She allows herself to feel when she senses the man before her is not afraid of feeling. When he no longer apologizes for his desire, his presence becomes freeing. Because the feminine doesn't open through pressure, it opens through polarity, and polarity is born the moment a man stops fearing his own instinct. He neither hides it nor exaggerates it, he simply exists in it. And that calm acceptance, that silent strength, that contained magnetism is what makes her body respond before the mind can interfere. Desire is not about conquest, it's about resonance. The more a man returns to his center, the more his energy speaks on his behalf. He doesn't attract through effort, he attracts through alignment. He doesn't seek attention, he receives it naturally. Because the greatest paradox of attraction is this: when you stop trying to awaken desire, you become the reason it awakens. A contained force, not a desperate romantic. Because a man of gravity does not seek approval. He radiates presence, he does not prove himself. He allows himself to be felt. And what is felt, but not chased, becomes magnetic. The average man tries to please. The powerful man provokes. He does not offer reassurance. He sets rhythm. He leads the emotional tempo, shifting between closeness and pause, attention and distance. He allows imagination to complete the picture. He understands that the most compelling moment is silence after a look. Because silence, when filled with presence, speaks louder than words, and the body always responds to what the voice attempts to conceal. Desire is not something you manufacture, it is something you stop interfering with. You do not force emotion. You simply remove the noise that blocks it. When you stop seeking validation, you project authority. When you stop chasing outcomes, you project abundance. And abundance is the most compelling state a man can embody. Because it says, without declaration, I do not need to pursue, I attract. A woman is not drawn to the one who chases, she is drawn to the one whose gravity pulls her inward. This is the inversion of power. The man who needs to prove becomes dependent. The man who simply exists becomes dominant. Attraction is not a game of words, it is a game of hierarchy. In every interaction, someone governs emotional rhythm and the other adapts. Most men unknowingly surrender this position. They react instead of regulate. They let her mood define the tone, her attention define their value, her silence define their anxiety, and the one who reacts first loses ground. A woman does not respond to a man who seeks her approval. She responds to the man who does not rely on it. Because genuine detachment signals abundance, it communicates, I choose, I do not chase. And that energy is instinctively recognized as strength. This is not arrogance, it is sovereignty. A man who operates from abundance does not compete. He decides. and the one who decides controls the frame of desire. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. In attraction, fear translates to respect, not intimidation, but the quiet sense of consequence and depth surrounding a man who does not bend easily. Women respect men who are not emotionally available on demand. They test boundaries to find resistance, and when they encounter it, they relax, because structure calms emotion, and control creates safety, not through explanation, through energy. Power shifts the moment a man stops trying to be liked and starts choosing where his energy goes. He no longer seeks acceptance. He filters. He does not wait for validation. He observes response and adjusts presence. He does not reply instantly. He allows silence to set tempo. And that silence, deliberate, grounded, self-possessed, does what no speech can. It places him above the noise. Jung described wholeness as the integration of light and shadow, full command of one's inner duality. In attraction, this appears as a man who knows his darker impulses but does not advertise them. He does not suppress them either. He governs them. He understands that to awaken depth in another, he must first command his own, because a woman can only surrender to what she instinctively respects, and she only respects what cannot be fully controlled. The average man, seeking affection, gives everything: time, attention, reassurance. But giving without selectivity destroys value. The man of presence gives little, but each gesture carries weight: a glance, a pause, a word. Each becomes meaningful because it is rare, and what is rare becomes significant. This is why the inversion of power is not manipulation. It is restoration of hierarchy. He does not withdraw to punish. He withdraws to preserve gravity. He does not speak less to appear mysterious. He speaks less because his silence already communicates enough. His attention is not scattered, it is earned. And every woman, consciously or not, recognizes the same law that governs all attraction. The one who withholds controls rhythm. The one who controls rhythm shapes the outcome. Attraction does not respond to explanation. It responds to energy beneath it. Attraction is not communication, it is calibration. The more you speak, the more the signal weakens. The more you explain, the more the mystery dissolves. Because desire is not logical, it follows emotional tempo. A woman is not drawn to what she fully understands. She is drawn to what she feels but cannot fully define. And what cannot be defined expands. The modern man, obsessed with reassurance, destroys what he seeks. He wants to be liked before being desired, accepted before being felt, understood before being respected. But attraction moves in the opposite order: tension, then respect, then connection. Seeking comfort too early traps a man in harmlessness, and harmlessness never activates instinct. Desire does not emerge from equality, it emerges from contrast. Machiavellian strategy teaches that all relationships involve influence. In attraction, influence is invisible. It is not dominance or submission. It is rhythm. When you control rhythm, you shape perception. When you shape perception, you influence emotion. And the man who governs emotion governs the interaction, even when he appears to be doing nothing. That is why real attraction is not motion, it is gravity. Everything moves around the man who does not need to move. Jung described individuation as becoming whole, strength and sensitivity, instinct and restraint, light and shadow. The composed man does not suppress desire. He channels it. He does not escape tension. He uses it. He does not scatter energy. He refines it into calm presence. Because desire without control is chaos, and control without desire is emptiness. Mastery lies in balance. A woman's deeper response is not awakened by pressure. It is awakened by permission. She allows herself to feel when she senses that the man before her is not afraid of his own intensity. When a man no longer apologizes for his nature, his presence becomes freeing. Because polarity, not force, opens instinct. Polarity begins the moment a man stops fearing his own impulses. He neither hides them nor performs them. He simply embodies them. And that calm acceptance, that grounded magnetism, is what makes response happen before thought intervenes. Desire is not conquest, it is resonance. The more a man returns to his center, the louder his energy speaks. He does not seduce with effort, he attracts through alignment. He does not seek attention, he receives it. Because the final paradox of attraction is this: when you stop trying to awaken desire, you become the reason it awakens.